Hey everyone, welcome back to our series. Today we had the awesome opportunity of talking to Representative Rhonda Taylor here with us to talk about the Georgia General Assembly.
The one primary duty under the Georgia State Constitution is that we must pass the state budget, the annual budget. That's the main thing that we must do. However, we do also pass laws as well, and that is contingent upon the will of the people. You know, we work in our districts. We're only in the session for 3 months, which is, well, actually 40 days. And so we usually get the foundation for the bills, I'll put it that way, for the laws from our constituents. And matter of fact, I just had a conversation with the constituent that wanted to see some changes. And we take that information back to the General Assembly. We go to Legislative Council, who actually researches the legality of it and then put it into the form of a bill. It then goes through committee hearings. It has to be voted out of committee in order for it to come to the full floor for a full vote. Once it comes to the floor and we're all voted on it, both sides, it goes in the House of Representatives, it goes over to the Senate for the exact same process. If it passes in the Senate without any amendments to it, it goes to the governor's desk. The governor has an option of signing it into law right then or waiting until that deadline, which is normally when bills go into effect, which is July of every year.
How does this position affect the voters and their families in their daily lives?
Gravely. I can't express that enough. It is extremely important that constituents be engaged because the laws that we're passing directly impact them and their families. So, for example, we passed the Parenting's Bill of Rights, which was a bill that we passed this year. That bill gives parents the right to come into the school systems and review all of the curriculum as well as the textbooks that are being used in that school. Well, if you're not aware of that law being passed, then you can't participate in that process. So it's extremely important that you know whether you're for or against a certain type of law, that you're engaged and that you're informed. So I can't stress enough. It's just like I use the example all the time in my district that when you purchase a home, you go through a long, lengthy process. You research the amenities in that community, the crime, the schools, before you make that big investment. So you can't make that big investment and then go inside your home for the next 5 years and only come out when you hear about crime happening. All of a sudden you're interested, well, they need to pave the streets or they had a shooting up the street, and you have not been participatory in your community, safeguarding it from the beginning. So constituents really truly have more power than they think they do. And whatever we can do to, just bring that power up and out of them would be an amazing benefit to us all.
Why is it important that voters educate themselves about the candidates running for this position?
Well, I'm a firm believer that you need to know who represents you. Now, I got started in this a very long time ago as a volunteer, probably about 34 years ago. And for me, it's comfortable because I already know everybody. Even when I got elected, more than half of the General Assembly knew who I was. So when you have an issue, you need to know who to call. But what I'm running into, I guess I should say, is that constituents are not informed as to what I do. They'll call me and say, have the water company turn the water back on. That's not what I do. We don't trump the county and local municipalities. So learning about that and understanding how government works helps you to make better decisions in your home. And so it's vital that we engage our constituents and make sure that they do know who we are, that we're reachable, accessible. I created precinct captains in all of my districts. I have 14 precincts. So if you vote at a certain precinct, we have one contact person that you can go to for whatever you need in order to get to me. So my constituent liaison meets with them on a quarterly basis, whether it's your child needs school clothes, whether your child needs a job, or whether you need food. Like we identified our food deserts as in my district so that we can bring resources in there. So you have to know who that particular point captain is so that we can best serve you. We're not magicians. We can't read minds. And we can't, now going into January, we'll have 60,000 plus residents. There's no way I can touch all of those residents. And now it's like at 59,000. So we're asking that you don't elect me and send me to the Capitol and then not let me hear from you again. That's a disservice on their end as well as on my end. So we strongly encourage participants to really, constituents, to really participate in the process and know who their representatives are. Definitely.
And why is this election so important?
Because our lives depend on it. Period. Elections, all elections are local. I'm sure you've heard that before. And especially in the climate that we're living in right now, whether you are for or against something, your voice is vital. And right now, you need to know constituents, I should say, need to know what's going on, because every single law that's passed from the local all the way to the Supreme Court impacts your home. It determines whether or not you can continue getting food assistance from the federal government, which, they stopped doing the free lunches after the COVID. I guarantee you 70% of my constituency did not know that cutoff date. All they knew was they were getting extra assistance through the SNAP program. And that sometimes that was upwards of $600 additional, and then all of a sudden it disappears. Well, if you are engaged, I keep using that word because informed is stronger. So if you're engaged and you're in and out the community and you're working in the community, then you know those types of things that are coming to you before they get to you. So it's very important that you pay attention to what's going on in this election, because everything hangs on it. Voting rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, as well as our democracy. Our children's rights are being put on the chopping block right now, education, by way of education. So I can't stress enough that every single eligible voter needs to go to the polls and go early to avoid the lines. You go early so that if you have a problem, you have time to go back and to address that problem. You go early because whatever party you belong to, or however you vote, that party is able to assess that you voted and the concentration can be put elsewhere. So voting and voting early is extremely important. So, and also I have to say that don't just go vote the I. We're so used to seeing the I behind a name, and I haven't heard anything bad about him, so I guess he's all right, and vote the I. You're going to have to do some diligent research.
Can you explain what you mean by the I?
Incumbent.
Okay.
The incumbent. They assume that, well, they've been there serving this time, I haven't heard anything bad about them, so they must be okay. But it is essential that you take the time to Google, search these candidates out to make sure that they align with what your principles are, because that way you get better and more effective representation.
Is there anything else that the voters may need to become better aware concerning to the position that you would like to add?
Yes, that I work for you. We all work for the people, and it's the people's house. And when they see the people show up at the house, it changes things. So yes, you elect us to go represent you, but we can't do it by ourselves. We definitely need to see you in the Capitol. And there are different types of programs that allow you access to the Capitol. We have a gallery where you can come and sit in and watch us during the session in the chambers. You can also watch online. But more so, whatever issues that you have that are most important to you, find an organization, a group that stands with you on those principles and unite. Join them. We do have groups that come down and they do press conferences in front of the Capitol. You can come down to the Capitol and literally lobby us out to the ropes, is what we call it, and ask us individually, are you voting a certain way on this bill, and why are you voting a certain way? And you can appeal to us your view of it, because that way we hear from the people. So I encourage voters, constituents, to always feel free to come to the Capitol. You can always schedule a meeting with your legislator, and you're free to come in. It's your house. Come see us.
So today we had a wonderful conversation, and I hope that you learned more about the state position in which we talked about today. Don't forget that early voting is started. We need your vote, and you have until November 8th. Please stay tuned. Please make sure you share these videos with somebody else, and don't forget to get out and voice your opinion by voting.